Well, it's about time the Rays did something to help this ball club. They're going to sign a third baseman. Now, it's going to be a few weeks
what's going on with Junior Caminero? Hold on.
Yeah, well, I'm not exactly sure, but this is a transaction, and it's going to be an actual signing, and they're going to even, invite the media to it. However, this player won't be ready until June 7th, apparently.
Must be hurt, right?
Yeah, well, not necessarily. It just needs time, perhaps, to get into shape, or at least to get his right hand going so he can sign this one-day contract. It's Evan freaking Longoria going to retire officially as a Ray when he signs his one-day deal. On June 7th, it's going to be a big celebration. They're going to retire Evan Longoria and his number, and they'll do it in front of less than 11,000 fans. It seems trite. I know the timing isn't perfect. They really should have a sellout at the Trop or something at least that big. But yeah, he's going to come back from wherever parts he's at right now and retire as a Tampa Bay Ray. And I don't think there's any debate. I won't listen to it. Evan Longoria is the greatest Tampa Bay Ray in franchise history, and he's going to remain there. He's played for 3 franchises. He played for the San Francisco Giants after he left Tampa Bay, played for Arizona, and now he comes home and comes full circle. And it'll be a big moment, a big night, emotional for him, clearly, but this is what he wanted to do. And, good for him, man. He left a lot of memories in this community and with that baseball team starting in his rookie year, and it never really stopped.
Yeah, I wasn't in town for the rookie year in that run to the World Series in 2008 and that.
Oh, it's incredible.
I was here for 162.
Yes,
and,
yes.
What a phenomenal moment that was in his career and for the Rays franchise. And there's no question he's the greatest Ray of all time.
No.
I mean, you can sit there and talk about Carl Crawford and B.J. Upton and James Shields and David Price and Blake Snell. I think it's hard to compare starting pitchers to everyday players as well, because you're only on the bump every 5th day. But for as long as he has the records he's got in this franchise and what he's meant to this franchise, he is the grand Ray of all time at this point. I mean, I suppose in some world you were hoping Wander Franco would pass him at some point in his career. But the hype he had coming in, but obviously
got a little ways to go now.
Well, his legal issues have hampered that a little bit, so we'll see how. Although that trial's coming up right around the same time, I think like June 2nd or something.
Yeah.
So
maybe they can sign him after Evan Lund retires. Who knows?
Well, he's already signed, so
that's
it's just
true.
a matter of if he can play. If he's out of legal trouble, then we'll see what baseball does. And although who knows what happened with that trial there, but he is under contract for another $172 million over the next 8 or 9 years. So. But Evan Longoria, I mean, that's what they did the statue 2 years ago at Tropicana Field, I think, out
that's
front.
Correct.
They honored him, or maybe it was last year. I don't lose track of time, but now he'll get a set to retire. I assume they'll retire his number. I don't know if they'll do it that day or not, but they absolutely should. And he's well deserving of every honor he gets.
Yeah, no one's going to wear number 3 again, and that's apropos. He did a lot of things right, not just as a player, but also as a leader on that ball club, and they were good for a very long time ever since he was here. It was a kind of a dark day, kind of a difficult decision for them to move on from him, and he went out and played for the Giants. Will forever be known. Like you talk about his greatest moments, and he had a ton of them. You'd start, I guess, with game 162, and that was the final day of the 2011 regular season. It's still considered one of the most exciting days in MLB history because you had so much going on with the Red Sox and the Rays trying to win the AL wild card.
You also had the Braves and Cardinals fighting in the National League.
Yes, at the same time. It's a crazy day in baseball. Final day of the regular season. The Rays fell down 7-3, and there were 2 outs in the 8th inning when Longoria hit a 3-run homer off Luis Ayala to make it a 1-run game. And at the same time, the Red Sox collapsed in Baltimore. They lost 4-3, and that kind of left the door open. And that's and even not the player, but maybe a bigger moment, quite frankly, if you will, because it's 4-3. or I'm sorry, 7-6 at that point after Longoria's home run. Dan Johnson homers off Corey Wade with 2 outs in the ninth.
Yep.
And then, that's kind of what got them into the 12th inning when Longoria had his heroic moment. So
the Red Sox and Orioles went to a rain delay, because I remember that game started before the Rays game.
Right.
And so that went to a rain delay, and you didn't know what was going to happen there. And then the Rays ended up going to extra innings.
Yeah.
And Baltimore beat Boston like 3 minutes before Longo hit that home run.
Yeah. And it was his second home run of the day. That I think people mistake as well. But 2-2 pitch off Scott Proctor, and he hit that lower cutout portion in the left field fence, and the statue shows him raising his arms. It's that iconic moment around first base. Place went nuts, and he secured his place in history, as Mark Tompkin wrote, joining Bobby Thompson as the only players to hit a walk-off homer in the final game of the regular season to put their teams in the postseason. I mean, think about that. You're right there with Bobby freaking Thompson.
The shot heard round the world.
That's right. This was the shot heard around Tampa Bay, I guess. But, so really cool moment. And he was locked in that day. And, for them to come back down 7-3, it looked like they were going to make the postseason. But you mentioned, him coming up as a rookie and what they were able to do to get to the World Series. I mean, that was just such a magical time, and we've talked about this with the Bucks, and I think I've talked about it with Tony Dungy, who said his favorite year in football was not winning the Super Bowl with the Colts, but it was '97 when they won for the first time with the Bucks, when they went to the playoffs, beat Detroit, first home playoff game in 18 years, and but for Longoria to come up and for them to make it to a World Series against the Phillies, this is a team that was used to losing 100 games a year. You knew, and I've always said this, like, special shows up very early. You don't have to wait on it. Whether you're talking about Michael Jackson or Evan Longoria, you're going to find out in short order. And man, was he special, and did it, with both the glove and the bat. This guy was a pretty good third baseman. I don't think he gets enough credit for how solid he was. He was in the lineup almost every day. He was a durable player. He was a guy that you could, you knew he was, whether it was Joe Madden or whoever it was, could pencil him right in there. And he was going to give you, 4 or 5 really good at bats and come through in the clutch and make the lineup work and all those things. And, and kind of carried himself, with a confidence and an air about him. And wasn't afraid to get on some guys, too. He chewed some ass, like with B.J. Upton for not hustling. And, he would hold guys accountable, which is what you needed, even as a young player. So, yeah, the greatest Ray. I don't think it's ever been really debated or much of a question. And now he gets to, find his place in baseball history and Ray's history as a retired number. And it's very thoughtful on his part to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to come in. I want to sign a contract, and I want to complete my career, if you will, where it started.
No question about it. And he wasn't flashy, which is why he never gets the credit for like the way he played third base and stuff. And he was quiet.
Yeah,
like his lead. He wasn't a vocal leader.
Nope.
He wasn't. I mean, he would hold players accountable.
Right.
But he was a lead by example guy.
Mm-hmm.
And always, did it the right way. But he never got the attention that maybe other players did that were, at the same level of him play wise, just because of the way he was. He was a quiet guy, liked his privacy. Yeah. Wasn't going to put everything out there, wasn't going to go talk all the time. But just did it the right way. And without guys like him, this franchise isn't as successful as they are now. I mean, it's, guys like him helped lay the foundation. There were others too, of course, but
yeah, I still think one of the most iconic moments or soundtracks, if you will, is Longoria walking to the plate with that tantric sound.
Oh, yeah.
That tantric song. Dun, 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 dun,
Can't wait to hear it on June 7th.
Yeah, it's going to be cool as hell. And it just, it got the crowd going. It's an energetic kind of walk-up tune, and he'd almost always make it work, And there are moments, right, that you see the replays, game 162 being one of them. Another one was the final out of that season in 2008. It was a pop-up down the third baseline. They beat the Twins and to clinch their first trip to the playoffs. And who caught the ball? Evan Longoria squeezes it, and they're going to make their, his postseason debut. And and then in the division series in 2008, he hit a home run on each of his first two swings in game one. I mean, this guy, he rose to every moment, right? Like he was that dude, right? And that's why he had so many of them. He had so many big moments. Hit for the cycle 1 year, and did that in 2017. I mean, there's just very few things. And also, you mentioned playing third base. The guy won 3 Gold Gloves.
Mm-hmm.
He won 3 Gold Gloves, so he was a complete all-star player. He did it both on offense and defense. I mean, he was a hell of a player.
No question about it. It'll be good to see him back in town, and much like a lot of guys that retire from this area, they like to spend a lot of their retirement time here because we know how great this area is. But it'll be good to see him there. I mean, when you can bring back the best player in your franchise history and do this, that's special.
Yeah.
And for those who have tickets already, I mean, unfortunately, only 10,046 can fit in the place. So if you've got your tickets already, don't sell them.
I
Keep
know.
them.
Yeah, they're going to be worth something. You're going to want to probably frame that one because it's going to be a big deal.
You have to print it off your mobile device, but
no, that's true. That's right.
You don't get to keep tickets anymore.
Things are different those days. I wonder if Mark needs any help that day.
I'm sure he does. I mean, you're volunteering, right?
Yeah, I might get volunteered whether I want to go or not.
Voluntold?
That feels like a Romano column to me. But plenty to do there. Maybe I can write the gamer. I don't know. But it'd be a great moment, and I think it's too bad there's only 10,000 that can see it. That should be played in front of 20,000. Should be a huge sellout and all of that. But good for him. And he's left an imprint. Of course, he owned Ducky's there. I don't know if he's still an owner of that or not, but he started a restaurant chain here. He's, been pretty visible, but now I think he's spent some time in Arizona, maybe California, where he's from. I guess he still has places here. I'm not really sure what his, living situation is right now, but yeah, be cool to see him, and certainly fitting that that he retire Ray, and hopefully, the way they've been playing at Steinbrenner, maybe he can change the mojo over there a little bit. I know they won the last series against Milwaukee, and they're headed to play the Blue Jays, I guess now, but. Man, they need to trade those fortunes around a little bit. He never got to play outdoors in Tampa Bay, so that's probably something he would lament when he goes over there. But he had a hell of a career, so yeah, good for him, man. NFL getting ready to make some news. The schedule drops on Wednesday. We'll talk about that, but first, hey, you want to get on down to International Plaza Mall and go see our friends at Breitling Boutique talking about the NFL. Well, they have a special collection, limited edition, I might add. NFL team watches, beautiful chronomat watches. Breitling Company, of course, has been making Swiss watches now for over 140 years, and they've been in International Plaza Mall for the last 5+. And right now, as supplies last, 32 team watches. These are men's chronomat watches with the team colors in the face of the watch, the logo. These things are stunningly beautiful while supplies last, and you can get them for any of your favorite teams, not just the Bucs. If you go to our website, you will probably see their watch on display there on TampaBay.com. But they also have watches for women as well. Your wife, your girlfriend, go in there, find a beautiful sports watch. These things are durable and gorgeous, and she can choose from any number of beautiful wristbands to go with that sports watch for her. Breitling Boutique. It's in International Plaza Mall, right in the center, upstairs. You're going to love the customer service. They're going to treat you like a celebrity, and you're going to walk out with the best timepiece you've ever owned. It's Breitling Boutique. Make sure you let them know that you heard about it right here on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Well, I love the NFL and what they have done, making all 12 months significant and vital to NFL fans with nothing sometimes but announcements. And one of the biggest announcements of the year is clearly the NFL schedule. And it's going to come out on Wednesday at around 8 p.m., but that's not enough. You got to leak it out sort of slowly as far as the national TV games go. And we found out that it's going to be, I really believe the Dallas Cowboys are going to travel to Philadelphia to play the defending Super Bowl champions at the Link. And that will be game one of the NFL season. I believe that's going to be played probably on a Thursday night. If I'm not mistaken. That's usually
That
what
is
they
correct.
do.
I think it's like September 4th, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right, because everybody else is on probably near the 11th or thereabouts.
Yeah, 7th is the first Sunday. Labor Day is really early
Labor
this
Day?
year. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. And so, that'll kick it off, and then we're going to find out, like I said, Wednesday, the entire schedule for all 32 teams. But you're starting to see some of these are network confirmations, network leaks, if you will.
Well, they're not leaks because the NFL actually announced the schedule.
They
when
announced
these things
those,
would come
yeah.
out, so.
Okay, so for example, there's one, I think, after Christmas that they put out?
The Christmas night, it's Chiefs Broncos on Prime.
Gotcha.
The day after Thanksgiving game is Eagles Bears.
Eagles Bears, okay. And there's a Packers. Isn't there a Packers game too, or no?
There's a doubleheader on Fox Week 16. Commanders. It was Bears, Packers, and Commanders.
Bears, Packers. That was it. Yeah.
Giants, I think, or Commanders.
Or
somebody.
Eagles.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It might have been Commanders, Eagles. That might have been.
I think it was. Yeah. Yeah. So they're kind of popping out. There'll be more, I'm sure. Later on Tuesday, and then Wednesday.
I think the Monday Night Football. A couple of those come out today.
Today, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think they said ESPN's were
first week for sure. They have a doubleheader the first Monday night usually.
Yeah, they traditionally have. And then Wednesday, CBS will have an announcement, as will Netflix, before the schedule release.
Before it drops at around 8 o'clock Wednesday night. Now, you'll see on some websites, and they're not necessarily reputable, but I am always fascinated by them. There'll be some websites that'll say, here are the schedule leaks so far. These are ones that haven't been announced.
Yep.
And one of those I saw, and I have no idea whether to put any faith. In fact, I guess some people I talked to at One Buck that said, well, that would be a surprise to us. Nonetheless, one of them was the Bucks playing at Detroit Thanksgiving Day. Now, the Bucks do play the Lions again in Detroit again. So that's always a possibility if you're on the Lions schedule and it's in Detroit, right? You could always end up with one of those Thanksgiving Day games. Don't know if there's any truth to it. The Bucks have played on Thanksgiving before in Dallas. I was there. It's kind of a unique situation, obviously.
That was back in 2006. It's been that long.
Yeah, that was when I think they played like 3 games in 11 days. Gruden was complaining about it, and probably rightfully so. And then there was one other game that was a leak, and again, no credence to the website. Didn't recognize it. Don't know if it's true, but it had a bunch of games, not just the Bucks games. But they had the Bucks hosting the New York Jets, and they played the AFC East. Had them hosting the New York Jets on Sunday Night Football Week 2. And if that were true, if they were going to host, it sort of makes sense that they would be on the road Week 1 because the Tampa Bay Rays have a game that Sunday, opening day, I guess, in around the NFL at Raymond at across the street from Raymond James. They share sort of the same portions of the same parking lot. So you would think that they're not in the same stadium, but close enough that if they could avoid any kind of conflict like that, they would try to do it, the schedule makers. So I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I think the Bucks are on the road Week 1 this year. They were at home against Washington a year ago. I think they probably start on the road.
I think they probably do, but traditionally the NFL hasn't really cared if other venues have things near them. In other cities where they share parking lots and things like that,
it's a 10,000 seat stadium too. We're not talking about 60,000 fans or anything.
I mean, for the most part, the NFL has basically said we're the big dog. You can adjust to us. We don't.
That's right.
We don't.
Baseball.
Not saying,
what do we care about baseball?
Not saying they won't try at all, but if they really want something at a certain time, they're not going to move because somebody else has something.
Right. Now the Bucks, like I said, they were at home last year. 2 years ago, they opened up at Minnesota. They have no shortage. They have 9 road games this year in a 17-game schedule, not just 8, including a couple of long trips, which you could see perhaps early in the season, but one at Seattle and one at the Rams in Los Angeles. So a couple of West Coast trips mixed up in there. And somebody was asking me, like, what do you look for in the schedule? Well, I look to see where my life is going to be first
Yeah,
and
yeah.
foremost.
Which
Because,
weekends are you gone?
yeah, like
Which
what
ones are night
holidays?
games?
The second one is what holidays am I going to miss, right?
Which ones are
And then
night games? That's
night
big.
games, which we abhor because you have very little time to produce said stories. When you're have the locker room open at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night.
Forget
Um,
stories. It's the podcast that comes after those stories
well,
that I worry about.
that's the 2:30 a.m. Appearance that we make. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, that's zombie-like conditions. But um, and then the other thing I look for, in addition to, I think the opener is very important because that's the only game you can prepare for. You're obviously going to play that week one. You find out if it's home or away and against whom. The other thing I look for is where's the bye week? Because the NFL talks about competitive balance and then they go out and make it very imbalanced because they can reward a team by giving them a bye week that's at or near the middle of the season, which is where you'd prefer to have it. Right now, you can't predict when the injuries are going to occur, early, middle, late. It can happen anytime. But I do know this: that if your bye weeks in the first 4 or 5 weeks, you're playing a whole bunch of weeks without any days off. Without any weekends off. Anyway, you might have a Thursday night game and a mini bye sort of after that, but predominantly, the better teams get bye weeks closer to the middle of the season. And if you think about there being 14 playoff teams or, whatnot, you could certainly reward those teams and have their bye weeks, on or about towards the middle of the season. And, so we'll find out what the Bucks are thought of, how they're thought of on Park Avenue up there in New York. But
The other thing I look at is like road trips. And,
yeah,
are you gone, 4 out of 5 weeks? Are you on
yeah,
the road?
if there's a streak where you have a particularly bad road schedule, that's going to affect you.
Or if you remember a couple years ago when it was, 49 days between home games because the only home game in a long stretch was an international game, and those will be announced this morning.
Correct.
On NFL Network. So we'll see if the Bucks go overseas at all. But
yeah, there's a possibility.
But remember, the NFL, and they basically admitted they screwed up because it was
Mhm.
one home game within like a 7-week stretch, and that ended up being an international game. The Bucks were the home team, but it was not at Raymond James Stadium.
Yeah.
And they would a long time. I mean, those kind of stretches, and then when your Thursday night games, and then who you're playing that Sunday before, and kind of the level of competition. I always look at that too.
Yep.
Because we know that short rest, and especially Thursday games on the road are hard. That Thanksgiving game, if you're on the road, if you go to Detroit this year as rumored, and that's usually the first game.
Mhm.
You're playing Thursday at 12:30 usually.
Right.
Although I think this year I may have said it's pushed back to 1:00 this year. But so that's like a traditional Sunday game. But
yeah.
But normally when you have the Thursday game, you play your Sunday game, whatever, 1 or 4 o'clock. You don't play till Thursday night. If you're going to Detroit, you're playing 7 hours earlier.
Yeah, it's a big difference in terms of the turnaround time, the rest time. That's going to be hard. Now you could have a bye week potentially before that. I doubt it, but that always could happen. That Thanksgiving game, I did the one they did in Dallas. It was interesting that the Bucks weren't very good and they lost. I think it's cool to be part of the, when you're the only game on TV, like there's national TV games and then there's Thanksgiving, right? Like there's Christmas Day, like those things are sort of a captive audience, if you will. You're sitting around the turkey or whatever you're doing on Christmas Day, and those games are on and people watch them all. Which is why Netflix paid about $250 million for a couple Christmas Day games. But it's different. You feel, you definitely know it's a holiday and everybody's sitting there. But it's kind of cool, to be honest with you. It's kind of cool to be part of that tradition. And now it's only good if you win, because if you lose, it's like, wow, we got to wait a long time to get that taste out of our mouths. And I do think the home teams have an advantage on those dates. I don't think there's any question of Dallas and Detroit, although the records may not bear that out. But Detroit's a really good football team now, and it's a great atmosphere up there. So going up there on Thanksgiving would be even tougher assignment in some degree. I would think you'd want to catch the Lions like they did, last year, pretty early in the season, before they really get rolling. But who's to say? Look, the schedule's tough for everybody, and the 9 games on the road, including at Seattle, at Los Angeles for a couple of long ones. They play the AFC East, I think, in some instances. I know they got the Jets and others. So we'll see. We'll be able to successfully, as we do every year, predict the Bucs record when that schedule drops on Wednesday night.
Will John Gruden be making an appearance on the pod again?
Well, I think he has to. He's been busy opening packages. He's getting boxes. It's all about boxes every day.
You think on the NFL show they'll just send him a box and he'll open it live at 8:00? It'll be the schedule.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? I tell you what, man, I got the schedule right here for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let me open this box. It's a turkey from Detroit.
Maybe that'll be the Bucs' schedule release social media post. I mean, every team has their,
yeah.
Creative.
You could have a box. Gruden opens a box each week, right, for week one. This is my week one box, man. Tampa Bay at Los Angeles against the Rams.
But if he's opening 17 boxes, that may take too long, though.
Oh, man, the cutters. Yeah, he's not good at it. He's really not good at the box cutters. Might have to do envelopes or something like that. It'd be funny. It's great to see some of the social media teams get after it, man. They get after it. Tennessee's done a nice job with that in the past. Cardinals, there's different teams. Even the Bucs do well, so I don't know how much time they have. I don't really think they give the teams much notice, from what I understand.
Well, they don't, but the posts are, everything's created. You just got to
the opponents.
You just got to fill in the dates. Yeah, because you already know the opponents. You're just basically filling in the dates. They don't give them a ton of notice.
No, that's true. And they make fun of the teams they're playing and stuff like that, so it's cool. But for me, I just want to find out where I'm going to be each weekend, or hopefully most weekends in the fall, and where that fits in your life schedule. And college football is always, a big part of the fall. So it's the schedule reveal is cool. Like it's really a cool night, and the NFL has monetized everything, and that's why it's on national TV. And much like the draft, where you get 250,000 people to listen to 260 something names called, you got a captive audience waiting to find out what's going to happen in November. Where their team's going to be. So we'll have a better idea. And God bless them. Hopefully they manage to stay relevant. I think that's the only thing. If you cover a team like I do, you just want them to be relevant. You don't root for them. I don't have the fan card per se. But there's an expectation, I think, this year with the Bucs, who have made the playoffs 5 years in a row. They're the four times in a row division champion in the NFC South. And we'll get into this here in just a second. I think the Saints have taken a big step back with the retirement of Derek Carr. There's a big expectation. I'm not sure I buy into it totally that Bryce Young and in particular Dave Canales' Carolina Panthers are going to make a big leap and be contenders this year. I think it's a two-team race. With the Atlanta Falcons, who have definitely tried to do some things in the draft and mortgage their future to, get one of the league's worst pass rushes going in the right direction. And of course, Michael Penix Jr. To start out the season as their quarterback. You saw what he did down the stretch last year when he finally got in there for Kirk Cousins, who's currently still there. But that offense is explosive. They've got to improve their defense, and Raheem Morris has to do a better job of finishing the season. But I think it's going to be an Atlanta, Tampa Bay contest all year, and I think it's the Bucs division to lose, as it has been low these many years. So that's going to be something to watch. I mentioned Carr, and that puts the Saints in not a great place, right? Like last year. They kind of went back and forth, but the Bucs played Spencer Rattler twice. He did come back in the game at New Orleans and score a bunch of points in the second quarter. They wound up losing that game. The Saints did anyway. And then they have Jake Haener, who's a little bit more of a veteran, and they kind of went back and forth between those two. But then they drafted Tyler Shaw this year, and some people think that he, could have been a first-round pick, like that he was worthy of that. I'm not really sure. I think the Saints are in full rebuild mode, and of course, if you don't have the quarterback, you're gonna struggle. but their defense got old rather quickly, and now with Carr gone, there's a lot of questions about not just the quarterback position but also the defense. Here's what I would say, and I thought somebody suggested the other day. I think it might have been Neil Hardman on my radio show that maybe Aaron Rodgers is waiting for the schedule on the Jets. Of course, former Jets quarterback, waiting with Pittsburgh to see how many games the Steelers get national TV before he were to announce that he was going to the Steelers. Because if he did it beforehand, we've seen him do it with Brady. They go back into that schedule and they go, oh, well, we got a marquee quarterback. We got to put him on Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday night. The Steelers will be on a few games no matter what, just because of their brand. But is that something that we'll see Aaron Rodgers declare after the schedule drops for whatever reasons that he's going to play, and he's going to play at name the city, name the team?
Or did he wait to see if an opening like the Saints happens? Which
and that's leverage. The other part of it. Yes, is that he now potentially has another place to play. The Saints didn't. Maybe they expected this, but regardless, here it is. And if they want to be relevant, if they're not ready to play one of the young quarterbacks right now and just go through the growing pains, Aaron Rodgers is out there, and he could maybe leverage them against the Steelers, or vice versa. So that's something to watch. I thought it would take a little more genius than I give him credit for to say, hey, I'm not going to announce now because the next thing you know, I'll have every marquee Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night game all year, and I don't really want that pressure. But I tend to think that that's probably not true, and maybe he's just weighing his personal options, and this, the Steelers and others are may not have an interest or are waiting to see what his final decision will be. But it does. You're right. It does give him potentially another place to go play, and I don't know that New Orleans has an interest or not. I frankly think that Pittsburgh is a better situation if you're trying to win. If you're Aaron Rodgers and his age, you've got a much better chance, even though the division is tougher. The reason to go to New Orleans is because outside of Tampa Bay, any of those teams can get got. But I don't think that's the case when you're looking at Baltimore and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and it's pretty tough. So we will find out, I think, here pretty shortly what A-Raj wants to do. But for right now, Derek Carr not being able to play, I think is probably a good thing for the Bucs. And I think it's going to be them, Atlanta, and then we'll see. Look, Carolina gave Tampa Bay fits, whenever they play them. And Bryce Young played much better down the stretch. And even if the Bucs had lost the final game, Bryce Young came back to beat Atlanta in overtime, and the Bucs would have gone to the postseason anyway. So their arrow is pointed up a little bit with Dave Canales' group, but I still think they have a ways to go. And I think the Bucs are better. I think they're a better team than they were last year, and I don't even think it's close. Finally, some sad news. Actually, it's not sad news. That's what Chris Berman would say if it were. Chris Berman is back for a 50th year at ESPN. 50. Holy moly, that means a couple things. 1 year old, okay, we grant you that. But man, to have begun with the worldwide leader when it was, merely a cable station in Connecticut or what have you, and to be, still there doing the, the fastest 3 minutes in sports or whatever he does with Booger McFarland. It's all good, baby. It's good, baby. It's pretty wild. And have I gotten a chance to meet Berman and know him a little bit, through my wife's former boss, the time he spent in San Francisco and DeBarlo, and he, emceed a bunch of things for them in the past. And interesting cat. Of course, he does the Hall of Fame induction ceremony almost every year. And maybe the longest thing about that day is Berman introducing every single Hall of Famer that comes back to Canton. It takes forever. It just does. But yeah, Boomer is back. I can still be my Boomer.
It'll be part of the Super Bowl coverage. They have the Super Bowl not this year, but next year.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll bring John Gruden back for that too,
I'll tell you what, man. Yeah. Boomer and Gruden. Yeah. Get them all back together. all my imitations back together. It'd be awesome. But yeah, Boomer's funny, man. He's done it so long, and the All-Star games. You remember the home run derbies in particular. Of course, all the great calls. Going back when they were just starting the network, and the 49ers were winning in the early '80s, and he was out in San Francisco, and chaos is going on around him, and there he is. But man, what longevity! I mean, you think about guys like him and Dick Vitale, and some of the guys that really were the core of that of ESPN. How about this? Rich Eisen show is headed to ESPN.
Yeah, part of ESPN's getting ready to announce their direct-to-consumer offering. I believe later this year. It's just going to be called ESPN, which that won't get confusing, but I guess
Right.
why change the brand?
Exactly.
But yeah, he's gonna in some shape or fashion be back with ESPN. So probably on their direct. You don't need cable anymore to get ESPN when this happens. So you'll be
Yeah.
able to, they haven't set a price yet, but you'll be able to subscribe to ESPN directly.
Yeah. I don't know if this is true, but I heard the number and I couldn't really put networks to it. But somebody told me, or I read it somewhere, I heard that to watch the entire NFL in 2025 and not miss a said game, I mean, obviously, you got to have something special. But they said you might have to access as many as 12 different either streaming stations or networks combined to actually watch all the games. And I'm not talking about a DirecTV thing. I'm saying like, Thursday nights on Amazon and,
yeah. Well, they have a couple Peacock only games, and then I think there's a Paramount Plus only game, and
there's a Christmas with Netflix.
Right, Netflix, and then ESPN. I don't know if they have an ESPN Plus exclusive. NFL Network has games like these.
I think they do have. I believe one of the international games last year was on ESPN Plus.
Yep,
maybe.
I think so. Yep.
Jacksonville game, perhaps.
All these networks want exclusive content for the streaming services, trying to get their numbers up.
Yeah. Which, man, you're asking for not just a big investment in time, but also in money for your casual fan. And
but so far, the fans are willing to pay for it, which is why the networks keep paying even more and more for games.
And the money for the players goes up and up and up. And where this will, bubble will burst, I have no idea. I do think there's a saturation point with anything. And certainly the NFL is testing the limits of that right now. In addition to not just the United States and start times and things, but the number of international games that they're going to play and where those start and what time zones they're in. So, yeah, they're going to chase the rabbit and the money. But, man, at some point you got to realize these guys they're playing football for a living. They're playing a very violent sport with short careers. And I don't think the union is anything but short-sighted when they, continue to lengthen the games to, what used to be 16 is now 17, is eventually be 18 or 20.
It's going to be 20 by the next CBA. 18 before then, 20 at the next CBA.
I mean, that's 2 full high school seasons, right? Like it's 2 full college seasons in some instances. So,
well, college is now 15 or could be up to 16 to win.
You can make as many as I think Ohio State played 16 games last year. Yeah, it's nuts.
And they didn't play in the conference championship game. So
no, correct. Yeah, that's correct. So big investment, big payoff for the players, and certainly the fans have to be ready to go. But should be an exciting week, with all of that, and the schedule dropping and so much more. So we'll be around for it. The Rays are going to continue their series against the Toronto Blue Jays. Then I think they come home against the Houston Astros.
No, they'll be in Miami this weekend.
Oh, okay.
And then they're home against the Astros.
And then home against the Astros. Gotcha. So a couple road trips back to back, and then back at Steinbrenner Field. So we'll see if they can get things going a little bit. Might get Josh Lowe back soon. I suppose that's possible.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion we were having over the weekend.
Right.
Josh Lowe could come back tonight or tomorrow, Thursday, sometime on this road trip.
Yeah.
Who goes down? Is it Cameron Meisner or Chandler Simpson? And there's a case to be made for both.
Well, let me ask you this. Didn't they just add an outfielder that had a walk-off the other day. Could he go down or be released?
I'm guessing based on his veteran status, he doesn't have. He's not waiver eligible.
Doesn't have options, right?
Right. Yeah. Doesn't have options.
But could you just say, "Hey, thanks for filling in. We're good now"?
You could, but that's not typically the Rays' way. They don't usually.
You're
give up on
thinking they
players.
can only play 3 outfielders, so they would want Chandler Simpson, or perhaps you said Meisner would be the other guy.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to be either Meisner or Simpson that goes down because they have options.
Gotcha.
So I think your outfield would end up being, Lowe, Morel, Jankowski, and then your fourth outfielder is either Simpson or Meisner.
Yeah.
Now, you could send Meisner down because you say Simpson come in and pinch run late in games. What a weapon.
Yeah.
But I think Simpson's probably your better prospect long term, and would he be better served? He Sunday he had a good game, but before that he was kind of struggling. Would you be better served having him go down, get a 3, 4, 5 weeks solid playing every day, kind of get his? I don't want to say confident. I don't think he's lacking confidence, but
his feet under him a little bit.
And we see that a lot with young players. They come up, they get that taste.
Yeah,
they do well, then they kind of plateau a little bit, and then sometimes
teams figure out how to pitch them.
Absolutely.
They don't have the book on them, and then after they wear them out a little bit, it's like, okay, so you're never going to see another fastball.
Right. But then sometimes going back down can you figure some things out, and when you come back up, you're even more prepared.
You figure it out without the pressure of having to win.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to cost your team games, if you're coming up in big situations and you don't have your things ironed out. So that's always a factor. I would just say
would Simpson be better off being the fourth outfielder, getting at bats every 2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah, maybe not. And
just pinch running, or considering that you didn't even expect him to be in the majors at this point, it was only because of injuries to 4 outfielders.
That's right.
That you've called him up. That would he be better off? He's only had 3 weeks in the minor at AAA in his career. Like, would he be better off just going down and keep playing every day to just to keep developing his game because he's so young? Meisner could benefit from that too. So it's not like it's one or the other. But
Meisner's a little older though. But
yeah. But I think it'd be better off to me. As much as Simpson's a great weapon for late in games, although Meisner's quick too, not Simpson's fast, but But I think for Simpson's development, I think knowing he hasn't played much in AAA, that would be a better move for him long term.
Yeah, that might be what they do. I wouldn't do it. I would absolutely. And yes, it's hard to not play, but he can play 3 positions. He can play all 3 out. He has played all 3 outfield positions. I think he's probably better in center. Doesn't have a great arm, no matter where you put him. But he would be in the outfield most days in one of those 3 spots, and the other guys would be sitting, just because I think if he puts bat on ball, even against a lefty, he's got a chance to get to first. And if he gets to first, he can be on third in 2 pitches. And I don't think you have anybody else on that ball club that you can say that about. And, it looks like, at least if his last game was any evidence, that he has made a bit of an adjustment, and maybe he can continue to pick up some hits, or at least put pressure on the defense, which is you don't have enough guys to do that. And his raw speed just creates offense. So I think the way they've been struggling, the home run ball's not really flying out for them right now, that they need all the help, all the offense they can get with the speed, and the ability to get on base that he has, maybe take a little bit of hit on the defensive side. So I would stick with him and just find a way to play him in right, center, or left. But that's me. I think you're probably right. I think he's probably going to go down. That would be my guess. But I wouldn't do it. I am not about taking offensive weapons away from myself right now. I'm just they just cannot consistently score enough runs. So I'm keeping them. Hey, make sure you get on down to Breitling Boutique. Go see our friends and the beautiful Chronomat watches, the Navitimers, watches for your wife, your girlfriend. It's Breitling Boutique, International Plaza Mall, about the middle of the mall there, 2nd floor. Great customer service, and you will be happy with the greatest timepiece you've ever bought from the Breitling Boutique, International Plaza. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on Sports Day Tampa Bay. Thanks for listening, as always. For Steve Versnick, I'm Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. Have a great day, everybody.